I am reading Entitled People's stories, the people we just love to hate. So, the first story is going to be called Park in Pickup Only Spaces. Now You Can Wait to Leave by Bunny Slayer 64. Some context: my local Wally World has 4 spaces in the front of the parking lot reserved for curbside pickup from the pharmacy and 4 reserved for the curbside pickup on online orders. All 8 spaces are individually marked and have appropriate phone number to call for your order. As you can imagine, being so close to the door, there are those who think those spaces are for their convenience. That being said, I had to stop at Wally World a few days ago to pick up a couple of meds from the pharmacy. It was some time between 4 and 5 in the afternoon and hotter than heck. The heat was making me a bit grumpy, and this was my last stop of the day before going home, so I really just wanted to get it over with. You can imagine how irritated I was to find all 4 of the pharmacy spaces and all 4 of the online pickup spaces were taken up by parked, unoccupied cars. I just lost my cool. I was so aggravated that I decided a little bit of petty revenge was in order. So I pulled my car up so that I was on one side of the aisle. Other cars can still get by, of course, but was blocking the first 3 unoccupied vehicles. I put my car in park and called the pharmacy pickup number. The associate who answered my call asked me where I was parked, and I explained exactly where I was. There was no way she couldn't find me, lol. After a pause, she sweetly said it would take a few minutes, and I politely reassured her that she could take all the time she needed. About 5 minutes later, the first of the drivers came out to get into the blocked vehicles. I ignored him. A couple of minutes after that, another of the drivers came out, and one started their vehicle and honked their horn. Again, ignored. Several times. The pharmacy associate, finally, came out and sauntered up to my car. Cue total karma. When she scanned my order on her handheld and I swiped my card, the system crashed. She had to reset and try again, and the system crashed a second time, and then a third time. At that point, I decided that the point had been made and paid cash so she could go back inside, where the AC was probably cranked up to the max. It may be petty and spiteful, but I had a smile on my face for the rest of the day. On to the second story. Older cousin demanded her inheritance after our grandmother died. She screams like a banshee when I tell her no, and point out she already got hers. By Wide Breakfast 88670. The post will be sort of long, but I thought I'd share it. For context, my maternal grandmother is the one who passed away, and my sister and I always called her by the Portuguese word for grandmother, vavo, or vo. I butchered the spelling. My biological mother is Vo's second and youngest kid, with there being a 12-year gap between my aunt and mother. As a result, my cousins from that aunt are way older than me, as I spent a decent part of being a toddler as the flower girl at their weddings. The cousin in the story is my cousin H, 15 years older than me. Given the gap in age, my Vo was super involved with my sister and I, as well as our great grandkids from my older cousins. I was very close to Vo and still say even now that she is my very first best friend in the world. As she aged, Vo's health got worse, and by the time I was in high school, she was on oxygen around the clock for emphysema. When we were kids, she had paperwork drawn up like a will, healthcare proxies and others just in case something happened, but we couldn't sign as we were under 18 back then. With the exception of maybe 3 people, most of my mother's family were huge addicts who refused to get help. Vo didn't trust anyone other than my sister, my cousin Steve, and me, and as soon as we were old enough, Vo asked us to take her to have those documents updated. Vo named my sister and I in the updated docs, and I had a professor at school review the new docs with me as well so I understood them thoroughly. Steve was newly married and expecting his first child and renovating his new home, so Vo didn't want to stress him out more. Whenever a decision needed to be made on Vo's behalf, my sister and I would include him, and as someone older than us, we looked up to him. My sister H was a full-fledged addict, and on top of being entitled and snobby, her husband, now ex, owns his own masonry business, and they did well for themselves. But when I was in junior high, she somehow managed to steal 10K out of Vo's savings and opened a credit card in Vo's name. I was pissed. My Vo was devastated that H did this to her. Fast forward a bit during my early 20s, I get news that Vo has a bad case of pneumonia and is hospitalized. During my school winter vacation, I spend every day with her, and the doc says to me she'll be discharged the next day since she's better. I return to school at the end of break, and I get a call 2 days later from my sister. The long and short of it is that Vo took a bad turn after discharge, and it doesn't look like she'll survive. I raced back home. What was a 2-hour drive took maybe 90 minutes. I make it in time to say goodbye. I came in, held her hand, and gave her one last kiss on the cheek. She died about 10 minutes later. As everyone was in the elevator leaving, H asked Steve, sister, and I why we were the only 3 people the care team would speak to privately. We shrug it off, in no mood to fuss. Sis and I get to work arranging the details of the funeral. Vo's church has a beautiful memorial for her, and after we get back to my sister's house, H starts her crap again. She has been snooping and learned that Sis and I were named as the proxy, or POA, with me as the primary. I confirm that to H, and she also read something about the will that I was her executor. She starts her damned and entitled Karen act when I confirm the will is correct. Why you, of all people? You're just a kid. I'm 22, not 5. She picked me because she doesn't trust most of the family. Whatever. Just give me what Vo left me and I'll go. And I'll take whatever she left for my kids, too. H has 2 kids named Courtney and Cody. My sister Courtney and I were left a necklace and ring, each with a little money. Cody got roughly 9 to 10K, as he didn't get much in the way of items passed down. Vo didn't think he'd want women's jewelry. However, she also gave me her old engagement ring to hold on to until one of you kids gets engaged and want it. What are you on about? Give me my money and my kids' stuff. I can't. Why? Well, if you read the whole will, you'd know that you didn't get anything. Why? Because Vo said you already got yours and you stole her identity and retirement savings. Whatever, give me the stuff for my kids then. I can't. Vo had me promise not to give anything to anyone other than the people listed. I can't give you my sister's inheritance for you to give to her. That goes direct to her. Guys, H is near 40 and throws a tantrum in the driveway and calls the freaking cops on me. Tried saying I stole everything and assaulted her. It backfired on her. Cops ran all our info and H had bench warrants in 3 states. I just can't. She also wanted me to pay bail. I told her to pound sand. This all took place a few years ago, and I ran into my old teacher who knew the situation, as she was friends with my Vo since we were little girls. I was reminded of this situation when Vo's friend and I had coffee together after running into each other. Good grief, OP. It's bad enough when you have to deal with entitled people your own age, but when they're literally twice your age and they still act like children, it's just a whole nother level of entitled. I honestly am really sorry about what happened to your grandmother. She sounds like an amazing grandmother, and I'm glad everything worked out in the end. That's all for this episode of Reddit 9 to 5. If you like this content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have a good story about entitled people or otherwise, be sure to share it down in the comments and I may just post it in my next video. Thank you and see you next time.